But I just heard that the band will stop playing at midnight. Owens, we can't have that. As if on cue, the whine of a saxophone drifted into the kitchen. Mr. Green, the band's got a contract. Is that so? Green's blue eyes fixed on Owens. Well, I do know a thing or two about contracts. Yes, sir. You should, working with the finest law firm in Jackson. And I didn't come all the way from Jackson to go home at midnight. Not at Mardi Gras. No, sir. Beads of perspiration shone on Owens's forehead. Mr. Green, if the band plays past midnight, we got to pay them extra. Mr. Green's face broke into a smile. Well, if that's all. He pulled a wallet from his pocket. He folded several bills and slipped the money into the manager's hand, then pushed the door and walked out, with Owens at his heels. Seizing the opening, Darren slipped through the back exit out onto the patio, then walked toward the swimming pool at a brisk pace. The pool was drained, the lounge chairs and snack tables locked up until Memorial Day weekend. A dozen cabanas made a semicircle beside the women's dressing room, and the door to Cabana 6 was ajar. Jules Shaw would be waiting for him inside. 2. She was bad news, he knew that. At 28, she was 7 years older than Darren, and as the only daughter of one of the club's founding members, Jules Shaw was forbidden fruit. Even in the 21st century, rich white women usually didn't mix with the black waitstaff at the country club. Not in Rosedale, Mississippi. But Jewel was a wild child. He pushed open the door to Cabana 6 and slipped inside. It was dark, but Darren knew from experience there was a light switch somewhere on the wall. Feeling for it with his fingers, he bumped against a table, with his good knee, thank Jesus. He found a lamp and switched it on. He saw Jewel lying on the chaise lounge near the far wall of the small space. Her left arm dangled off the side, and it looked like her purple dress had stains all over it. He hesitated. Maybe he ought to turn around and head back to the kitchen. If Jewel was passed out, and that had happened before, he was in no position to deal with it. But he reconsidered. It wouldn't be right to leave her like that. He'd best check on her, make sure she was okay. He approached carefully in the dim lamplight. "Jewel," he whispered. "What you doing, baby?" When he got to the lounge, Darren muffled a groan. Blood was seeping through slits in the fabric of her purple dress, where she had been slashed in the chest, abdomen, and side. The green and gold Mardi Gras beads at her neck were wet, and blood matted her blonde hair, where it fell past her shoulders. Her eyes were open and her chest heaved. Darren squatted on the floor beside her, barely noting the pain that knifed through his knee. Oh, Jesus! He picked up her limp wrist and, not feeling a pulse, pressed his ear to her chest to try to listen to her heart, smelling the coppery odor of Jewel's blood. Nothing. Her chest didn't move again. Leaning over her, he lifted her head and spoke her name. "Jewel." Then louder. "Jewel!" Dropping her head back onto the chaise, Darren squeezed his eyes shut, trying to think what he should do. He pressed his hands onto her chest, trying to revive her with CPR. It didn't help. He reached into his pocket for his phone, registering with panic that his hands were bloody, and his white jacket was smeared with blood. He would dial 911, but his hands shook so violently he couldn't enter the passcode. Footsteps sounded on the cement outside the cabana, and he heard men's voices. Darren tried to shout, "Hey!" but it came out like a squawk. As he held the phone, a flashlight beam cut into the dim room. Darren dropped the phone and said, "Oh my God." 3. The club's security guard, a reserve deputy for Williams County, tackled him to the floor. Bert Owens trained the flashlight on Jewel, then turned the light into Darren's face. "What have you done?" Darren shook his head, pinned beneath the deputy, trying to frame the words. "I tried to help her." Owens said to the deputy, "Stand him up." The men pulled Darren to his feet, and with the help of another security guard...